Good evening. Or is it good morning? Well, that would depend on whether this is real time or a flashback. And if this was a flashback, whose flashback is it? And am I really Eddie Muller, host of Noir Alley, or someone else's recollection of Eddie Muller? Perhaps I'm merely an avatar representing someone else's interpretation of me. Is this too complicated for you? Well, I'm just trying to prepare you for today's film, The Locket, a 1946 release from RKO, known in these parts as the House of Noir. Now, flashbacks are one of the most distinctive things about this film. For years before this, they'd been a valuable storytelling device, but they became an almost indispensable part of film noir. Double Indemnity, Out of the Past, Mildred Pierce, Crisscross, Sunset Boulevard, all these films and many, many more would never have been thinkable without a structure built around flashbacks, which typically allowed for an evocative and often explicative voiceover narration. But The Locket takes flashbacks to a whole new level, literally. The narrative spirals into a flashback within a flashback within a flashback. A moviegoer in 1946 would likely be lost if they walked in at the middle, as lots of people did back then. But the brilliance of The Locket is that it is complex without ever being confusing. Now, credit that to an astute and precise final draft by Sheridan Gibney, who adapted it from a screenplay called What Nancy Wanted by Norma Barsman. Now, the script had been sold to RKO by actor Hume Cronin, who'd originally bought it with the intention of Nancy being a starring role for his wife, Jessica Tandy. Director John Brahm was borrowed from 20th Century Fox, where he'd made several low-budget but stylish horror pictures, The Lodger and Hangover Square being the best of them. Brahm was another of the wave of talented German filmmakers who came to Hollywood in the 1930s to escape the Nazis. He'd made a terrific film for Fox called Let Us Live, released in 1939, based on a notorious true story of two men wrongly accused of murder, played by Henry Fonda and Alan Baxter. It should have been Brahm's breakout as an A-list director, but the studio succumbed to pressure from the state of Massachusetts, which was embarrassed at having almost executed two innocent men. So as a result, Fox soft-pedaled the project, drastically cutting the budget and releasing the film on the bottom half of double bills. Brahm would have better luck with a string of terrific movies made between 1944 and 47, all marked by his stark, brooding visual style, especially his rarely seen Raymond Chandler adaptation, The Brasher Doubloon, which makes sunny Los Angeles look like something out of the Threepenny Opera. Now, abetted by RKO's ace cameraman Nicholas Musaraka, Brahm created one of his most visually stunning films in The Locket.
Isn't it possible, Mr. Clyde, that you're really trying to save your ego, your self-esteem as a man? And that in order to do this, you must destroy the woman who turned you down?
Facts are facts. Do you think I'd lie about them?
We don't always know we're lying, especially under emotional stress.
It also gave Robert Mitchum one of the most unusual early roles of his career. He's not a cowboy or a private eye, but a sensitive, fine artist with the very un-Mitch-like name Norman Clyde.
He thinks you're a little white angel, but I know you're a liar and a thief.
Oh, you poor darling. You believe all this is true.
Say that to him. He'll need it.
This would be the last supporting role of Mitchum's career. He just received a Best Supporting Actor nomination for his indelible performance as Lieutenant Walker in Story of G.I. Joe, and he was on his way to becoming the biggest male star at RKO. The real star of this unusual movie, however, is its leading lady, Laraine Day. She'd spent most of her career playing some fella's chipper girlfriend, so she was fortunate that the producer of The Locket, Burt Granite, was a personal friend. They both realized this was the biggest and best part she might ever be offered, and Granite stayed loyal to his sweet Laraine, even when bigger names like sisters Joan Fontaine and Olivia de Havilland heard about the terrific script and campaigned for the part. Ironically, Lillian Fontaine, the mother of Olivia and Joan, does appear in the movie, playing a small role as Lady Wyndham. Laraine Day was thrilled to have three wonderful actors supporting her. She was already a fan of veterans Brian Aherne and Gene Raymond, actors who'd been big stars in the 1930s, but by the mid-40s were relegated mostly to character parts. And although she was excited to have RKO's fastest rising star in her movie, she was dumbfounded that Mitchum wouldn't speak to her on the set, especially since they'd served an apprenticeship together at the Long Beach Playhouse. Apparently, Mitchum felt that Day had given him the brush off years earlier when she'd been the rising star and he was still scraping for work. Soon enough, their careers were headed in opposite directions. Mitchum became famous, and although Laraine Day did too, it was mostly for being the wife of legendary baseball manager Leo DeRocher. In fact, Day was better known as the First Lady of Baseball than for her acting roles. So, as it turned out, Laraine Day was spot on about this role. She'd never again get one as challenging, and it remained her favorite. Another film about repressed memory came out a year earlier, Alfred Hitchcock's Spellbound. It may have had bigger stars and dream sequences designed by Salvador Dali, but to me, it doesn't hold a candle to the deep, disturbing pleasures of this film. So, prepare to spiral deep within the mysteries of The Locket.